Hey, what's up? It's Ish, and welcome to another episode on my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about ADHD, also known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. There's also another version of ADHD called ADD, which is the same thing, but it doesn't have the hyperactivity part to it. And I personally have ADHD, so I want to talk to you about it, talk to you about what it is. What is ADHD? Well, ADHD is a behavioral condition that impacts attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. It usually starts at childhood and persists into it. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was around 13 years old, and I've been struggling with it since. Dealing with ADHD can have a huge impact on your personal life. It affects self-esteem, your schoolwork, and can trouble relationships. So let's talk about what ADHD could look like. First, I'd like to say I'm not a doctor or psychologist or any licensed professional. I'm just a person who struggles with ADHD. A lot of times in children, people just think that children with ADHD are quote unquote bad or have behavioral problems, which I mean, ADHD is a behavioral condition, but they just think that the child is overall just a bad child or just not doing the right thing. But it's actually, ADHD is actually something that impacts someone's behavior. So it is a condition, and it leads to impulsiveness, it leads to making decisions without thinking, and it's something that I've always struggled with as a child and as an adult. There are treatment options for ADHD. There's medication like Adderall, which is really helpful. It helps people who struggle with ADHD focus. There are other options out there as well, like therapy, and all of those solutions can work. So there's not one way to manage or deal with ADHD. It's about what is the best choice for you, and that's something you want to consult your doctor or your psychologist about. Now, I want to be very clear. ADHD is not on the autism spectrum. It is not considered autism. People who have ADHD or ADD are not on the spectrum. This is a completely different condition, so I just want to make that clear because they do have some similarities. Things that can really impact you when you're struggling with ADHD could be things like sleep, focus, finishing things, getting things completed, and that can impact you in so many different areas of your life, especially in your work and your relationships. If you want to make up for, dealing with ADHD and really be on top of your game, it's really important that you're real about it, that you're honest about it, get diagnosed if you aren't, find out what's going on, and then get organized. Organization has been a game changer for me when it comes to dealing with ADHD. Time management is a huge struggle for people who struggle with ADHD. Also, paying attention to detail. You see how all these things can impact work and relationships? These things are things that we have to constantly battle on a daily basis, and it is a struggle. When you're dealing with ADHD or you're dealing with somebody who has ADHD, it's really important to be patient with yourself, be patient with the other person, and really go the extra mile to be organized and manage your time correctly. Struggling with ADHD can feel like having a million open tabs in your brain being actively used at the same time. In fact, a lot of people who struggle with ADHD may have their computers with multiple tabs open. Dealing with ADHD can also be something that can really impact your relationships. Attention to detail, tuning out, zoning out are things that are very common when you're struggling with ADHD. I mean, me personally, I have been in conversations with people and listening to people talk, and I've completely zoned out and I start thinking about something completely different, and people have mistaken me to be rude. People have mistaken me to be careless or selfish, and I've even been mistaken to be slow or not as smart because I'm just not paying attention and I'm completely zoning out. So it's really important for people who struggle with ADHD to do things that help them focus. One thing that really helps me struggle with ADHD or battle ADHD and overcome it is actually working out because it gives my brain fuel. Eating right really helps me in getting a lot of good sleep. Going to sleep on time, waking up at a good hour, getting some exercise, and eating the right foods can really, really help you when it comes to helping your brain have more energy and focus and be more in the moment and be more present. Meditation is also something that's super helpful for me as I struggle with ADHD because it helps me stay in the moment, clear my thoughts so that all of those open tabs aren't in my brain going crazy, so that when I go out into the world and I deal with people or I'm in the workplace, I can really stay focused and pay attention to what's happening around me. People who struggle with ADHD can also struggle with driving. We can develop anxieties and things like that because there's so many things that we can forget to pay attention to or things that we don't notice, which can also lead to anxiety and fear. If you almost get into an accident or something crazy almost happens, that can really cause some anxiety. So people with ADHD tend to not like to drive a lot, but it's always case by case. People with ADHD also struggle with forgetfulness and absent-mindedness. Because you have a lot of tabs open in your brain, you're gonna forget something, and it may be an important detail. So having ADHD, again, it's really important to stay focused, create a list, use your calendar, use reminders, use all the tools. And the great thing about being in the technologically advanced world that we live in today is it's perfect to help someone who struggles with ADHD. We have AI technology, we have reminders, we have calendars, we have charts, and I use all of that stuff because I need it. I need it. Whereas somebody else will use those things and it's just helpful. For someone struggling with ADHD, it is sometimes do or die, life or death, to have that organization and have those things in place. What I've really found also that has been difficult when it comes to my personal relationships with ADHD has also been other people who may be struggling with ADHD and don't know it, or aren't diagnosed for it, or have other issues or other chaos happening in their life. When you're somebody who struggles with ADHD and you already have all these open tabs in your brain and you already have all these implications, in your personal life to be impulsive and think impulsively and do impulsive things, it can really be challenging when you meet others who also are not as sound or at peace with their own personal life. So it's really important to, pay attention when you're dating. Don't date people who are going to trigger those types of behaviors in you because it can really be not good. So it's really important to, look for partners who are patient, calm, and not as impulsive. A lot of people don't get diagnosed for ADHD, at childhood because it gets confused with just childhood behavior or, some other issue, or that the child is just a bad child, which I think is a terrible term to use for a child. But it happens and people miss the diagnosis. You can get diagnosed for ADHD as an adult. So talk to your primary care physician, see if you can get connected with someone who would be able to further assess if you have ADHD or ADD. One thing that I found is super, super challenging as a person that struggles with ADHD is interrupting others. There's a lot of times where we have thoughts and we want to get them out, and we could be having a conversation and unintentionally interrupt others. And that can cause some tumultuous conversations and communication because now the other person feels offended or feels that you're rude or just feels that you are, disrespectful or careless about that person. And so they're offended and that can cause arguments. So it's really important as someone who struggles with ADHD to hold your thoughts, take notes if you have to in a conversation because our mind is constantly racing when we're forgetful. Write things down while people are talking if you need to, and then you'll be able to recall what it is that you needed to discuss or share in the conversation until it's your turn. I also noticed that as someone who struggles with ADHD and knows that interrupting others is a challenge that I, battle against all the time, I notice when other people, even if they don't have ADHD, do it. I notice how often people cut each other off all the time, just in normal conversation. So I say that to say, a lot of people who don't have ADHD or who are not diagnosed for ADHD cut people off a lot. I notice it more now when I get cut off in conversations and when people overtalk me. And it's like, wow, we all gotta work on our communication these days. ADHD can be such a struggle that it can lead to other issues like depression. When you're struggling at work and you're struggling to focus, when you're underperforming, when you're not able to get things completed, when you have several different incomplete or unfinished projects, and you feel overwhelmed and you feel drained and you feel like you have mental fatigue, that can impact your work, right? And if you can't keep your job or if you can't be happy at work, then that can impact your personal life. And that's not good. That's not healthy. It can affect you in your personal relationships as well, which can also lead to depression. If you're not getting along with others, or if you feel like others don't want to talk to you or others don't want to hang around you because of your behavioral issues or the way that you communicate, it can really be a challenge and it can lead to loneliness or depression. If you often feel misunderstood by partners or people that you're dating, that can also be a challenge. So it's really important to be aware of it, know if you have ADHD so that you can empower yourself to have a healthy life, have a great work experience, have great relationships, because you'll know and you'll be able to implement the tools and some of the things that we talked about here today. I say this all to say that ADHD is absolutely manageable. So as much as it sucks, it is totally manageable. I mean, it is not, I don't want to say it's not bad, but it's manageable. It's something you can live with. It's definitely something you can have and live a happy life and live a full life and a functional life. I am really big on productivity. I'm big on being organized. I'm big on staying on top of things and being present in the moment. And I have to just work a little harder to get there than others do. And that's okay. I have to tell myself so lucky and so blessed to live in a current environment, in a current climate that supports people who have ADHD, because there's so much technology, there's so many exercises we can do, so many different types of therapy, and so many different types of resources and tools, including medication, that can help us manage our ADHD. So I don't want this to deter you or put you down. Like, this is something to just realize that you have to change your perspective on it, and you'll have such a full life once you're able to navigate it. People who struggle with ADHD are incredibly intelligent, incredibly, I know that we can have a beautiful life as we navigate ADHD. So I hope that this was helpful and informative. Love to know what you think in the comments. If you watch this and think, maybe I have ADHD, maybe talk to your primary care physician or a psychologist and see. You might. There are so many tests out there, that you could take that will help you find that out. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.